I built blades from Transformers Rescue Bots. The robot and the helicopter mode are two separate builds because he is non-transformable. Firstly, you will see how to build him. If you want to build him yourself based on the video, I suggest to slow it down. But you can also get instructions from Rebrickable. When building this block, I tried to mimic the most definitive elements of Blades' design from the show. For example, the helicopter cockpit's window's upper part on his back. I made the rescue bot's insignia too. I printed it on paper and used double-sided duct tape and transparent tape on top in order to attach it to a Lego piece. The tube things on his torso. The helicopter cockpit's lower part on his belly. It turned out smaller in proportions, but that's because the overall figure is slimmer compared to its counterpart from the series. I also got these orange parts on the knees. Another part is the turbine element from the helicopter's tail on the robot mod's lower legs and the grills on the top of the feet. I also made the propellers on the back, which are also identical on both the robot and the vehicle builds of mine, and colored it the same way it is in the show. I added these ingot parts to resemble these things on the shoulders. You might wonder why the optic parts aren't green like his visors in the show. The reason I used yellow instead of green is I decided the optic part will resemble his eye color, which is yellowish in the show, rather than the visor's color itself. And now for the articulation and posability of the figure. The ankles use a simple ball joint which is good enough for an ankle. The knee joint is more special. I used this part and the bar plus ball joint piece which allows for a larger angle of rotation. The waist uses T-pieces and clips to connect the legs into the torso, which again serves as an average connection. This can be said much about the mid-torso joint. It uses a ball and socket joint, and unfortunately the weight of the upper torso makes it unstable. A stronger socket joint or adding some thin paper in between should be able to solve this problem though. The shoulder connection is again more special. I have already once used this technique for the mock of my character Gearshift. It consists of a system ball and socket joint and a CCBS armor part and a ball joint. This doubles the angle of rotation and the CCBS ball makes up for the restricted rotation of the system ball joint connection. The lower arm is different than Gearshift's. It also uses a T-bar and clips to connect, but compared to Gearshift, the angle of rotation is unfortunately less, a maximum of around 90 degrees. And lastly, for the hand, it connects to the lower arm with a ball joint which is a good possibility for a hand. I used a socket joint that is more loose to make the rotation easier for hand movements. And that's all about posability. If you are still watching, now for the next point. Maybe interesting things I can talk about that don't fit into the previous 2 points. The lastly mentioned hand has rare pieces. There is this part from some Marvel sets. I use it in the lower arm too. And of course this one. According to Bricklink, it was discontinued a long time ago and it's quite expensive, especially in light grey. I ordered a large amount of it about a year ago and so far, like Gearshift and the End Protocol figure. As you could see in the speed build, the arm also has a piece being cut. That part is assigned as hose rigid on bricklink with various lengths and colors available, and in some sets it is in fact required to be cut like this one. This piece is also much easier to cut than solid bar Lego pieces. After Gearshift and Astro 2.0, this time I again mixed Hero Factory armor pieces or Technic pieces with system parts. I did this in many later mocks I didn't post yet. Also, this is the first time I used this specific upper leg design. I have used it in many Lego builds after this so far, you will see. Here are some work progress photos I took when I started working on blades. I also tried to make Danny Burns from Rescue Bats as a minifigure. I used this firefighter guy's torso and legs from set 76128, Captain Carter's head from the first Marvel CMF, and Ninjago guy's hairpiece. There are a few things from the show which I forgot to make, like the Scoop Claw, his energized accessory, and his dinosaur mode, which I will attempt to make and add in the future. That's all for now. I'm going to cover the vehicle mode in the next video in presumably a few weeks or months. This is the first time I ever do this kind of video in which I review a Lego pack of mine. I hope you liked it and I'm interested to hear what you think of this format.